Yo, what's going on, guys? Reversal here, and today I'm going to be doing an updated Dino deck profile for post-Duelist Nexus. If you haven't already checked out the last couple of videos with the combos with Lars, definitely check those out to get an idea of how certain things function now. I'm still opting to go second with this deck. I think it's better than going first, personally, just because it's a lot more consistent and you can play into disruptions a lot better, mostly because of Lost World, since it's just a lot better card going second. If you go first, game one, it's not terrible. You could definitely build a deck to do that, but you're gonna draw unplayable a decent enough amount of time, like 20%-ish, so that's never good. You might not draw a hand that could play through a hand trap a decent amount of time. You might run into somebody main decking Super Poly or something, and that could just get rid of your Dolka and your Lars, so that sucks when it happens too. There's just a lot more that can go wrong when you go first, from my experiences with this deck. Of course, there's some decks you probably don't want to go second into, if they're looking to like pseudo FTKU or something like that. So definitely keep that in mind. But before I get into it, I would definitely encourage you to watch the video instead of just like skipping through, because I'm going to be talking about a lot of different options for the tech cards. So like what you see on the screen at any given time might not be like what you should be running, since like deck building right now is mostly just for your locals, since there's not really any events going on right now for the most part. So what might be good for what are the best decks might not be good for your locals. Like, for example, I think Kashtira and Pearly are widely considered the best decks right now, but they might not really be prevalent at your locals. Like for example, I don't think either of those decks are really played that much, but I'm going to be kind of keeping that in mind, that those are the two best decks when doing this, and then I'll give you some options for how you want to build it based on what your locals is, for example. But yeah, I'll just get right into it. Drop a sub if you're not already. And this is 41 cards going second. So we got the 3 Ovies, 2 Archosaurs, 3 Baby, 1 Petite. I still like 1 Petite. Going first, you could play a second one, and it's like fine, because it does boost consistency a little bit, but going second, it just feels very cloggy. We got the 1 Misk, 1 Rex, 2 Conductor, 1 Pank, 1 Doggerin. This should probably just be in mains, just because, like I said, Pearly and Cash are probably the 2 best decks, and Kaijus are good versus both of them, so having one that's searchable sometimes is nice. Got the 1 Meteorus and the Frostosaurus, which is the new addition for Lars. This card, like, kind of sucks to have in the deck, but you have to play it for Lars, so it is what it is. I'm not playing the Fusion, but you can consider playing the Fusion, since it can come up occasionally, but I don't think it's worth the space probably. But this card helps mostly into Droll more than anything. Other than that, it's just kind of like fine. It's not great, but versus Droll, having this in the deck definitely helps significantly. For these spells, we got 3 Prosperity, 3 Ground Xeno, 3 Fossil Dig, 3 Lost World, and 2 Pill. Sometimes post side, going second, I'll side out like a Ground Xeno and the Vanilla potentially as well. But everything else kind of stays too. Still need Prosperities, so the deck's actually consistent, unfortunately. But I mean, you can run without them, it's just not going to be as good. This is pretty standard spell lineup though for the engine stuff. Now for the additional non-engine stuff, to help go in second, like with the addition of Pank and Doggerin, obviously. This is where there's going to be like a lot of different things to kind of talk about. First, I'll start with the things that are always going to be in there, and that's 2 thrust, and then a couple targets. I'm opting to play a Dark Hole and a Lightning Storm. This could also just be a Duster, but I feel like game 1, Lightning Storm's a little more just generically good, since some decks don't put up back row, and they might just leave stuff in attack, so I feel like Lightning Storm can be a little better game 1 than Duster in some cases, so I like the thrust package a lot, going second, because it can search like one of these cards for like if you need a board wipe or like a back row clear, and it can also search you engine cards like Fossil Dig or Ground Dino. So I feel like that helps with consistency a lot. It helps when your opponent only has like 1 spell trap negate and they use it, and then you get thrust and then just clear their board with like a Dark Hole or something, so that's cool. I'm opting not to play Dark Ruler at the moment, but you definitely can if your locals is like a lot of Sprite or something. But versus some decks like Pearly and Labyrinth, like Branded, it's not great. Like it's just not great in a lot of matchups right now, but still a good card depending on your locals. Then I'm playing Book of Eclipse if Pearly and Kashtira are in my meta, for sure, because this card is really good against both of them, especially, I mean, we already know it's good against Cash, but Pearly, the Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse are like the best cards going second versus them for the most part, since you can chain it to the trap that they set up a lot of the time to go into the Noir. So it's really nice to have the books to be able to kind of shut down that. But if, like I said, if Pearly and Cash aren't in your meta, you probably don't want to be on this. You could be on something like, you could be on Imperms potentially, or you could be on Dark Rulers. And another thrust target you can consider main decking is the Herald of the Abyss. I'm just using it in the side, but if, like I said, if you have a lot of Cash and Pearly in your meta, you probably want to just main deck this. And then for the last slot, we're going to play a hand trap. And I'm playing Ash just because there's a lot of Branded and Labyrinth at my locals. So if you want to respect Kashtira and Pearly more, you could not play the Ashes and play Imperms instead. So you have like Imperm, Thrust Package, Book of Eclipse, and then your deck's like really good versus Cash and Pearly. If you have like Vanadium at your locals, which mine doesn't really have much of, you can main deck Droll. This card's been underperforming for me very much in the main deck though. So unless there is Vanadium in decks like that at your locals, I wouldn't main deck this, to be honest, right now. But you can main deck it for sure as like a Silver Bullet type of card. But this is just like a general like lineup to kind of respect Cash, Pearly, and then like Branded Labyrinth, which is like probably the better decks like after those. And then like you got like Dragon Link and stuff too, which I'm not sure which. I mean, Droll's okay versus Dragons, so if you have like Dragons and Vanadium in your locals, maybe main Droll. But that's just like a general like template to kind of go off. Like I said, it's all very interchangeable based on your meta. For the extra deck, we got the 1 Baron. I feel like this card's mandatory if you're playing Ground Dino. We got the Lars, the Dolka, the Lagia for the Evolzors. And we got Dweller and Dugaris for some additional rank 4s. Dweller's been coming up for me a lot more recently than before. Mainly for decks like Dark World, and just sometimes you have enough bodies to just be able to make this and like detach a Rex, and so you can just add this to your board for just free. It hasn't came up much, but it has come up a couple times. And then this can still be made under the Meteorus lock, which is cool. Then we got a bunch of links. We got Link Karibo, Secure, Pentastag, a couple Nightmares, Access Code. This card's crazy because of these two. These don't really come up going first much anymore. But being able to use these to climb into an Nexus scope for free is very, very nice, especially in like main phase 2, since you have to use your battle phase to combo a lot with this deck. So having these is still great. And then last card's an Appaloosa. I might cut this because this really doesn't come up anymore for the most part, so this could just be something else. So if you play like tactics, this would just probably be a Zeus. So that's it for the extra deck. For the side deck, I'm going to be showing a lot of different stuff here because, like I said, you can't really just like build a deck with like a certain tech choices and side deck and then just it works for everybody, because it doesn't work that way. But cards that I would definitely include in the side are Droll, except for Vanadium and like Dark World and shit like that. Imperms, just so you have another hand trap that's good versus a lot of stuff. The one Herald of the Abyss for another thrust target, mainly for Cash and Pearly. The 3 Dark Ruler. You could play 2 Dark Rulers, since it's technically searchable off thrust, but with Dark Ruler, you typically just want to open it. Then we got a Duster. So these are like the things that I would definitely have on the side. And then you have a lot of different options to kind of round it out. You could play the 1 Tactics, but I don't play this anymore for the most part, since I found it wasn't really that great, and like Zeus wasn't coming up that much, so I just decided to cut them both. But you could definitely play like a 1 over these. You definitely want to play 2 or 3 Cosmics or like a Lightning Storm, just so you have more back row hate for Labyrinth mainly, and other random like back row decks and Floodgates. Next, you have a Bestial package, be like 2 Magnemute and a Druid Swarm, or you could play Ghost Bells. These kind of serve the same purpose a lot of the times, but they're like better versus different matchups here and there, so you can play either or. The Bestials are nice since they just are big bodies that can create pressure. So if your Dino stuff's kind of lacking, you can at least put some bodies on the board with those. But Ghost Bell was better before, in my opinion, because like Runic, but I think Runic's kind of fallen off significantly because of like decks like Vanadium and stuff where you need hand traps, and Runic decks can't really play hand traps. So then we got Nibs. These are obviously good versus a lot of random stuff. I main deck Nib and Droll in my Math Mech deck, and I've been siding both of them out a lot, so I don't like main decking either that much, unless you're playing like a ton of hand traps, which that deck obviously does. But you can definitely play Nib if your locals has stuff that has a hard time into Nib. Then we have like some go first cards, which I don't like going first with this deck both side very often, so I'm probably not going to play any of these anymore, but they're definitely an option that you can play. And I'll start with these 2, which is the Daruma Cannon and the D-Barrier. You can just play these as one-ofs, just because like if you keep thrusting going first versus a deck that plays like a lot of hand traps, or maybe like versus Cash, for example, they play Shifter. If they Shifter you, you can activate Thrust to set the Daruma Cannon, and that can get you to the next turn pretty much every time. And then versus a deck like Pearly, if they hand trap you, you could set D-Barrier and basically skip their turn. So these cards are cool for the thrust, but I found that they weren't coming up that much. Like I wouldn't really want to keep thrust in a lot of the times going first, and since the format's so diverse, I want my side deck to have as much flexibility as possible, so I can go second freely into pretty much any matchup. So when you're opting to play like a 30 or side deck as going first cards, that can get a lot harder with how diverse the format is. Then the same light, the 1 Called By. This card just, I mean, it's good versus like Droll and Ash, but for the most part, like you don't want it in your deck going second, especially with like Kashtira still a deck. You can still side this though, like as a 1-of. This is like the 1 go first card I would be okay with siding. just because it's not bad going second into decks like Branded and Mac and stuff too. So it can at least have some added utility going second. Or if you're facing like a really hand trap heavy deck, you might want to have it in going second. Then like we got anti-spells. This card's good for Dark Ruler and stuff, obviously, but Droplet seeing a little bit more play. Super Poly seeing play, and that really hurts the Evolzor board, so you have to definitely keep that in mind, even if you have anti-spell. Like if you're facing like a deck like Branded or something that you know is probably going to be on Super Poly, you definitely have to keep that in mind when making a board, because you don't want to just lose to a Super Poly. But this is like the best going first card to me, since it turns off the most things. Like it can turn off other decks' engines if they play a lot of spells. It can turn off Dark Ruler, which is typically the most common one card that can shut your whole board off. And it's just a good card in general. But I don't like playing it really right now, just because I feel like I need every spot in my side deck to be able to cover as much as possible. But yeah, like these are all like the cards that I would consider like playing. Obviously this is way more than 15 cards, so you kind of have to tailor it to your locals, but hopefully what I kind of went over with the main deck tech choices and all these cards, hopefully you can kind of get an idea of how to mix and match them based on whatever you expect at your locals. Because like I said, like if one locals there's a lot of Pearly and Kashtira, you can't really deck build for the same as the locals that has a bunch of like Vanadium and Dragon Link or something like that. So a lot of deck building kind of comes down to what you think you're going to play against. So that's it for the video. Let me know if you've been playing Dinos and how it's been going for you post Duelist Nexus. Like I said, definitely check out the combo videos that I did recently. Kind of show how the Lars weaves into the deck and how the Frostosaurus can help play versus stuff like Droll, and how you can play through Ash and Droll with this deck just in general. But yeah, that's it. Take care, peace.